Big Descriptions disrupts traditional educational methods. And why do we do that? Because we want to help humans thrive where they are, building better communities. One way that we do that is the Elephant in the Room Unboxed, where we give our audience members the tools and the resources to have those uncomfortable conversations and do it in a humane and anthropological way. We're doing this in partnership with Respect Diversity, another organization that is committed to doing the work with us. Each episode will have a different host and a different guest talking about uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable topics and giving you the resources of how to navigate them. Let's get uncomfortable.
My name is Suzette Chang. I'm the founder and CEO of Thick Descriptions, where we disrupt traditional educational methods with anthropology building stronger communities. And I have the privilege and pleasure of talking with Sarah Adams. So Sarah, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Hi, Suzette. Thank you so much for having me on. And halito, everyone. Saho chifo at Sarah Adams, Choctaw Hoyosia. So ishkiet Tammy Adams, Sapokniat Dorothy Jefferson, More Atali. I'm Sarah Adams. I'm a proud Choctaw woman and two-spirit person. I am the daughter of Tammy Adams and the granddaughter of Dorothy Jefferson, and I live in Moore, Oklahoma. I am one of the co-founders of an organization called Matriarch, which is a nonprofit organization for indigenous women, two-spirit, and non-binary people. We have a chapter in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa, and we are in our 8th year of serving the indigenous community here in Oklahoma. I also have an organization called Cousins for Indigenous 2S LGBTQ youth. I just do some various work in the community around Indigenous rights, education, some sovereignty stuff, and making sure that our community has places to learn and gather, and creating safety nets is really important for me, and making sure that we have accurate representation and that we understand a little bit what it means to be a part of sovereign nations.
That is a lot. So you said something that I've heard this before, and you will be the first person I think that I've asked. What does two-spirit mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. So two-spirit is kind of more of a contemporary term used for indigenous 2S LGBTQ people. And as I say that, like two-spirit refers to both masculine and feminine spirit. But it's this really kind umbrella term where it can reflect both identity and sexual orientation. And it's really kind because if you haven't figured out, or if you're uncomfortable with putting yourself in a specific box, which lots of people are, as we are evolving humans, and things, as they should evolve in our lives. And so it's this really great term for Indigenous people to use who don't identify in kind of a cis heteronormative way.
Got it. Okay. And so say the first organization again?
Yeah, the first, I co-founded with Kendra Wilson Clements, another Choctaw two-spirit person, Matriarch. And we've been around about 8 years, and it really got started because there was a string of suicides among our indigenous youth about 9 years ago. And unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of access to tools that we needed to be able to deal with what we were experiencing. And there was a lot of conversation happening in our community around that. And so Kendra and I got together, and we just thought, these are teachable skills. We can learn how to identify emotion, learn how to de-escalate, teach our kids how to do it too, and save ourselves. And so that's kind of how it started. And then, like most organizations do, I didn't intend for it to be the thing that it is today, which I'm grateful for, but that was never the intention. We were just trying to fill a need in the community. And as you know, when that happens, well, there's another thing that we need to talk about or tackle. And then there's another thing. And it turns into something where we developed a 9-month curriculum to address lots of issues happening in our community and teaching ourselves how we want to handle those issues. And one of the special pieces is that every class is taught by an indigenous person. So it's our community teaching our community. And then we decide how we're going to solve that, what we're going to do about it. And so it's very grassroots. We received, kind of our first bigger-ish grant this year, and this is year 8. So we've done a lot of, potlucks and using other people's spaces, and you make it work.
And I heard you say that this isn't something that you thought it would turn out to be. What did you think it would turn out to be?
I really thought we would just meet a few times to talk about these things, that we would maybe do it for maybe a year, that it would stay, fairly small, maybe 20, 30 people, and that would be it. And then we'd just head on down the road. And I didn't foresee the demand that our community, really just, everyone that was a part of that first year said, can we do this again? Can we keep meeting? Can we talk about new things? Can we invite other people? Can we, and so it started doing what community organizing does. You listen to the people, you are always responsible and answer to your community. And because that was like a really important piece of what we do, it's then our responsibility to try to make that happen and work as best we can. But it really, really, really was a community effort. It really is. Because if we hadn't had all of these people that we asked to teach and then graciously say yes to us, because we had no budget. And so they were coming and teaching for free, and we were all just doing things as volunteers, and we still do, by and large, do things for as volunteers now. My daughter is like our first employee working part-time, which is great. Nice. And now we're able to pay our teachers, which is great too. So, nice. But yeah, I think that a lot of really great organizations start that way, when you're just trying to fill a need, and it turns into something that's really, really loving, really kind, creates safety nets, creates safe spaces to talk about uncomfortable things, which you know a lot about. And that kind of space is kind of, it's so needed in our community, because that's kind of where the magic happens, when we get to talk as an intertribal, intergenerational group of people about the things that really matter to us and what we're struggling with, and being vulnerable to say, I need help. I don't know how to do this. I need my community. I need support. That's hard to do. And if you create the spaces, it's more apt to happen.
Agreed. And did I understand you correctly that you work primarily with teens?
Matriarch is for all ages. Okay. So it's actually from age 18 to whatever. And we have elders, through their, that are in their 70s. So we also encourage everyone to bring their children. So what ends up happening is we have people from 2 months old to 75 years old. So we have this really incredible intergenerational space where we all become aunties to these babies and to these kiddos, and we get to lean into their lives, and it builds another layer of support for our youth. Now, Cousins is for youth from about the age of about 12 or 13 to about 22. Okay. So that is primarily geared toward youth.
Teenagers and new adults.
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. How often do you all meet?
Matriarch meets twice a month, and each time we have a different topic. This last time we were talking about suicide prevention And we do it from a very strengths-based method. We have everything we need within our culture to do this work. And what's really great, even though words like, self-care and trauma-informed healing are incredibly important and kind of new terms, generally new, this is stuff that's been a part of our culture, that trauma-informed work and healing work has been built into our cultural ways since the beginning. And so it's one of those things where we're not learning new things, but we might be remembering or reminding ourselves about those things, because for many, many urban indigenous people, we've been separated by design from our culture. So whether or not our parents or grandparents were a part of boarding schools, Indian boarding schools, or part of projects that took indigenous families from their tribal nations and then moved them to cities, to urban areas in because there were more jobs and a new life and, giving them money to relocate. It's a very common story for a lot of indigenous people. And with that comes a lot of colonization, which in turn turns into a lot of imposter syndrome. Are you Indian enough? We get so many people coming to us saying, I don't know that I have anything to contribute to this group. I don't know if I'm, I wasn't raised like this or A or B. And I'm like, that imposter syndrome will get you, it'll really separate you from the things that are good for you. And one of the first things that we say in class is, this is your blood right. This is for you as much as it is anyone else. You're as indigenous as anybody else here. An indigenous community doesn't work that way anyway. Blood quantum and CDIBs and tribal cards were never a part of the way that we worked. So we're not embracing those colonizer tools either.
Thank you for saying that, because as you were talking, I was thinking about blood quantum. Cersei Sturm wrote that book. Dr. Sturm wrote that book about blood quantum, probably about 10 plus years old now. And it talks about, in essence, your community is the only that is the entry of it is based on the amount of blood that can be determined. So terms like 1/8 Native American or whatever the percentage or fraction is. You just said something that I thought, I didn't think of it that way until you just said it. That is from an external perspective. Mm-hmm. That is not necessarily how your community identifies.
That's right. It is it's a tough subject in my community, really. There is, I find, a generation that holds those things closer than maybe another generation does. And so it's a hard conversation to have, even in my community, because what I find, and this relates to a lot of things, whether we're talking about Native mascots too, there are some people in our community who are like, that's, some of them are okay with it. And what I find is that, back in that time, there was no representation. So even if it's negative representation, some people will still cling to that because that's all there was. That's right. All there was. And, even as it pertained to identity, they're just, again, we're never accurately, like many other communities, never accurately portrayed in history, not portrayed accurately in contemporary media. And so we cling on to these things, even if they aren't good for us, even if they don't help our community. But what I find is that we have this opportunity now to step out from underneath those things that really do harm our community. Things like blood quantum, things like Native mascots, things like cultural appropriation, and all of these other inaccurate histories, things like that. And as we grow in our tribal sovereignty and this strong stand that our tribes have in Oklahoma and across Turtle Island, we now have the opportunity to change those things and say, we're distancing ourselves from these things that hurt us. But what I'll say too is that, it is a slow process. It is a slow process. When you think about the fact that my generation, I was born in 1978, and I am the first generation to fully be able to live as an indigenous person with all my ways and not go to jail. That can be stunning. That can make you understand why it was just not that long ago that it was illegal to speak our languages, practice our ways, sing our songs, and not go to jail. It was just 1978. Wow. And so if I'm that first generation, and across the U.S., but yeah, because in 1978, there were laws passed that made it legal for us to finally be able to practice our songs, our traditions, our ceremonial ways, and our languages without going to jail.
And
that's not that long ago, Suzette. Like, no, if you think about it, it's like, wow.
It's within my generation. I was born in 68, so yeah, that's within my generation. I'm processing what you're saying because I think about the Trail of Tears. I think about the experiences of your community and other Native American tribes that I know of, yet to practice what is part of your culture was cause for you to be put in jail.
Yeah.
I'm processing that as you say that.
It's a lot, and so we get to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors who fought very hard, who survived, extermination policies, who survived assimilation, who hid these ways and these songs and this language and these ceremonies so that we could practice them today without fear. And I mean, I say that there's still always fear, right? There's so many misconceptions about Indigenous people and some of our practices, and it's seen with this mysticism and like this kind of magical whatever. And it's like, well, no, but when you had to hide something for so long, that creates this illusion of secrecy or of mysticism, and it's just not accurate. It's just because it had to be underground. So we still have a lot of our community members, and rightfully so, that are very protective. So many of I come from stomp, people who do stomp dance, and those grounds are way out in the middle of nowhere, not for a good reason, those need to be protected places. And so it, for a long time, I always wondered why our community, even with our own, would be you really had to kind of prove yourself and be a part of the community and earn that trust to be taught some of that information because you didn't know who to trust.
Right. So how is the next generation receiving all that you all are sharing, the historical context, even present day experience? How are they receiving that?
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's one of my very favorite things. There's something about growing up and not having my culture be a part of my life because I did not grow up traditionally. My grandparents were in boarding school, so they did not have anything to teach my mom, and she didn't have anything to teach me. So I had to do all this reclamation work of going out into my community and learning these things and bringing them back into my family. And what I love, Suzette, is that there will never be a time that my kids don't know their language, that they've never been apart from our ways and our songs and our regalia and all the things that make our culture so incredible. They can, they have this privilege to take it for granted. They don't, but it's back. We have this again, and it is so beautiful because it has been this foundational piece for feeling strength, for understanding of who you are, of a place to go back to when everything else feels like it's crumbling. It is this foundation, and it gives hope in life, and it is a responsibility at the same time. When we learn things and we, I learned how to bead, and I learned how to sew, and I learned these wonderful things because my elders loved me enough to teach me. So I taught my kids, and now they they have these beautiful this art and language to be able to go out into the world and just do incredible stuff. And it just brings me joy. And, but I will say that, like, I think our community, we still have a long way to go when it comes to decolonizing spaces around our two-spirit relatives and making sure that we remember our old ways. And that was very different. The colonizers' tools are really powerful sometimes. And pre-colonization, our two-spirit people, they were special people in our community. They were peacekeepers. Sometimes they named children. Sometimes they were able to go between different men and women and different genders and act as like mediators. They also, in some tribes, they had like up to 7 different names for genders, so there was this feeling of there's a place for everyone. And we really, really need to get back to that. There's been a lot of colonizer influence when it comes to that. And I feel like we have to even create new ceremony and new ways around these incredible people in our lives to make sure that they understand that there's always a place for them.
So where do your kids see themselves in the next 5 to 10 years as it relates to both organizations or the cultures that you and your family are teaching them? Where do they see themselves?
Well, that's a good question. I've never asked them that question, but Blue is working for Matriarch now, and we have had the conversation about what she would like to do. She's in this really exciting place as a young person. She's graduating with her undergraduate with her bachelor's degree in psychology.
Oh, wow.
I'm so excited. And she wants to go on and get her master's and her doctorate, and she wants to indigenize that practice. But she also is thinking about, neuropsychology. And so I'm hoping, but she wants to pair that with work with Matriarch so that she can stay in the community and that we have responsibilities. I think that's one thing that is really important in our community or in our indigenous community is that, yes, we have these wonderful gifts that we get to have because we are indigenous, but we have an immense responsibility to our community as well. And she understands that. And to me, that's a really important piece. So I see her, taking over Matriarch at some time, because I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired and I'm going to hand that torch over. And so we're having strategic talks about sustainability and about how we
make sure. Yes.
Oh, yes. And it is important that we're sustainable and that we don't hold that information so tight that if we go, it goes with us. That's no way to be. That's no way to treat our the next generations that are going to come behind us. We have to think about them. Right. And Aiden is a joy, and he just got his acceptance to OU. He's a senior in high school, so we're very excited. And I hope, will still be, helping with cousins and being a mentor, like he has had incredible mentors in his life, to kind of show like what success looks like when you're a two-spirit person and you're a youth. And it is really dang hard right now. Like we had a huge loss in our community with the murder of Nex Benedict, who is a WASO student, non-binary student, who was beat to death in school. I mean, I just cannot, I don't have all the words to explain how much despair I feel in that situation. And the only thing that I know to do is that we just create more spaces for joy for them, and that creates safety nets. And when you have safety nets, you have conversations and have opportunities to lean in when you hear about bullying or things happening at school. And if we don't have those opportunities to talk, we don't have space to do anything. Right. And so that's all I know to do. I don't have the answers, but I know that we have to do something, because this is just, babies should not be killed at school by other babies. Like,
Agreed.
it is bananas to me.
Agreed. I'm processing that as you say that, not just as a director of an organization, but as a mom to a mom. I can only imagine what their family is going through. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It is. It's
And
incredibly
it's not
painful
okay.
and scary for our kids, you know.
Right.
I've had conversations with several of them, and unfortunately, it causes a lot of those may not be the most healthy to come back up, you know.
Right.
It's a scary time, and I think we have an immense responsibility to do something. Like, we cannot sit on this. We cannot let this become another thing that we just accept in our lives. There's too much legislation. We're like the top state in the U.S. for anti-trans bills. Like, how is that possible? You know,
Right.
I don't understand how we got here this fast.
Right.
But we sure have to do something about it, and I hope that other people will be creating spaces for 2S LGBTQ kids and become those safe spaces and those champions, and show up to the Capitol and let people know where you stand. I think that's a big thing. Is not, I had this thing for a long time where I felt like I had to balance somebody's uncomfortability with
Right.
this topic with the information. Like, I couldn't be too much. I couldn't make them too uncomfortable. And I'm just done with that. You know,
Right.
I'm done
Right.
because
Right.
there are actual lives being lost because I'm taking my time because I don't want to
Right.
make them feel too uncomfortable. I just don't have time for that anymore.
You are literally in my head, because that was my next question to you, is because it sounds as though in many ways our organizations are similar, of that we're disrupting. How do you all disrupt? And it sounds like non-politely is the way that you all disrupt.
Yeah, I just don't have time for that sort of pause or comfortability anymore. We just have to. We don't have the time, and it's getting so aggressive so quickly that I think it does them a disservice. You know, if you can't understand it, we're not asking you to understand it. We're asking you to treat everybody
Respect
as
it.
humans. That's all we're
Respect it.
asking.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
it really
respect
is.
it. You don't have to agree. Just respect it. And that whole thing of respect often gets tied into manners, and they're completely different.
Yeah.
Manners, you know, being polite is one thing. Being respectful, again, we can agree to disagree. We don't have, but it should not impede someone's ability to live.
Mm-hmm.
Just because our views are different. As we are wrapping up, what would you want listeners to know more about you, more about both organizations, how they can get involved?
I would encourage anyone, any indigenous woman, two-spirit, or non-binary people who need a space to apply for Matriarch. We have a chapter in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Those applications go out in July on our Facebook page, and it's free. You know, we make sure that everything is free. We provide a meal. We want to remove barriers from your so that you can come and participate. And, you know, it's an incredible place to meet people and to have conversations and to feel support. And it makes the world a little less lonely. And really, it empowers the laughter in these spaces. This loud Indigenous woman laughter is just life-giving. And then I would also say, if you have any 2S LGBTQ Indigenous youth in your life, encourage them to reach out to cousins. We have group therapy once a month, which we call a talking circle. It's kind of a more Indigenous approach to group therapy with a licensed counselor who is gender affirming. And then we go do fun stuff. You know, we had these big plans about, like, we're going to talk about tribal sovereignty and Indian law. And they're like, you know, can we play ping pong and eat pizza? And we're like, yeah.
Kids.
We just gotta, they just need to be able to have fun. And so we keep it light and we try to, there's enough heavy in the world. Like we need places for joy. And so we're just going to focus on joy. We went to San Francisco recently and
That's
went
right.
to a two-spirit powwow there. And it was incredible. So much
That's why
joy.
I asked you, where were you? Because I remember you were doing some traveling. I couldn't remember if it was before or after today. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it was, we're just bringing the joy. We got time for all the joy, and that's what we're going to do. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you. And I thank you for doing this work.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Want to make sure as many people as possible in Oklahoma, around the country, and the world know about you all. So we'll definitely make sure that your website is, when this podcast drops, we'll make sure because both have a website, right?
Matriarch does right now, and they're the fiscal sponsor for Cousins. So if you donate to Matriarch through our PayPal and notate Cousins, we'll make sure that that gets routed to the right spot.
Thank you for taking the time. I know both of us have not felt well today, but we persevered. So thank you.
That's right. Thank you so much, Suzette.
Thank you for listening to Thick Descriptions Elephant in the Room Unboxed. Want to learn more about us, what we're doing to disrupt traditional educational methods? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, thickdescriptions.org, 405-397-0584.